You're listening to the Health and Happiness Podcast with Travis Kemper and
Lauren Maxwell. Each episode, we share easy-to-implement strategies to improve your health, happiness, and overall quality of life.
What's up, you guys? It's Lauren from the editing room. As you may have noticed, I don't have my partner here today, and this intro did not start with a quote, and it did not start with a, "Hey, Travis, how's it going?" Because Travis is in the Grand Canyon, or I think at this particular moment, he is hiking out of the Grand Canyon, or maybe even has finished his hike out of the Grand Canyon. He's been on vacation for the last week. I did get to see him actually and his wife Julia for about, 15 minutes before the start of his trip when he just arrived to Flagstaff last week, which was awesome. I haven't gotten to hug that guy in person for, what probably is whenever he moved to Colorado. It's been a long time, so it was nice to get to see him in person. Anyway, we've been on a lot of vacations over the last couple of months. July, I think, was filled with a bunch of vacations for the both of us. And we had worked really hard filming a lot of content in advance so that we could keep releasing something every Monday. But after my week-long vacation at the end of July, we really haven't been able to catch up or get ahead. So while Travis has been on his trip for the last week, we realized we have nothing to release today for this Monday's episode. But we also really didn't want to go a whole week without releasing some sort of content. So after chatting together, we decided it would probably be best to re-release our most popular episode, which is actually our first episode, our New Year's resolutions episode, which is really all about goal setting. And if you've been with us this whole time, you, one, probably remember that episode, but two, have probably realized that we referenced that episode in a ton of other episodes because everything comes back to goal setting. When there's something new that you want to accomplish or something you want to add into your morning routine or making a new friend or working out or getting your nutrition on track or getting outside more, it all comes back to goal setting and setting a really effective goal. So I think it's worth revisiting to re-listen to this episode again. And I guess your challenge for this week would be to set a new goal. Or alternatively, if you had kind of a vague goal that you were working on, something that you were kind of hoping to accomplish and you had set a very non-specific goal, revamp that goal. Listen to this episode, use some of the strategies that we talk about and the evidence that we discuss and revamp that goal. Make it something meaningful and specific and something that you feel compelled to accomplish. All right, so without further ado, and before my dog starts barking because it's time for me to walk her, here is the goal episode.
welcome to the Health and Happiness Podcast, Episode 1. Today we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions and goal setting as it is, January of 2021, which will hopefully be a much better year than 2020.
Fingers crossed.
For each individual and the whole world.
Yes.
So when we're talking about New Year's resolutions, they're ridiculously popular. Depending where you look, it's 50 to 75% of the population makes New Year's resolutions each year. Younger generations tend to make more, and apparently this year, due to COVID, the numbers are going way up for people saying they're going to make a New Year's resolution. Health goals are the most common, and only about 8 to 15% of people seem to stick with their New Year's resolutions. Actually, this is a higher number than I expected.
It's actually higher than I expected too.
Yeah, it seems way high because I'm an avid gym goer, and every single year the gym gets flooded for the first 3 weeks of January and then goes right back to where it was in December.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you always see like on social media too. Everybody's like taking pictures or videos of themselves in the gym the first day of the year. And then, like, as the year goes on, what happens to those? I don't know. They disappear.
Yeah, I don't see that, and I've never taken that picture either, I don't think.
Oh, I took it today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice job. Nice work. Way to show everybody that you're in the gym on January 1st.
The gym of my home.
The gym of your home. Hey, anywhere can be a gym, right? All right. So what's more important about this, as opposed to how many people are setting goals and how many people are failing, is what are the successful people doing? So what does the research say for making goals, Lauren?
So the research says, or I found a really good article that was talking about different types of goals. So there, I think everybody's kind of familiar with, whether you know the like specific terminology or not, setting like big overarching vague goals. For example, something like, I want to be more fit this year. And then a smaller, more concrete goal, which is, I want to go to the gym 3 times a week for the next year. And so I read an article that was breaking down basically what kind of goal was most successful. And they found that a combination of both is the most successful for people actually keeping the goal for a lot longer, which makes total sense to me, right? Because your bigger goal is your why. So like, if you want to get fit this year, well, why? Like, what internally is driving you to be more fit? Do you have a kid that you need to keep up with? Do you have a dog that you need to keep up with? Do you just want to feel better about yourself? Do you want to have your clothes fit a certain way? You know, whatever that deeper why is, that's your big goal, but that's not super specific. So if you only have that one, it's hard to feel like you're accomplishing anything, right? In the short term, and we're all very short-term motivated. So you can kind of lose sight of that and be like, well, I didn't go to the gym this week, so I don't know, maybe I'll try next month or whatever. But if you only have those smaller concrete goals, like I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, you can sometimes lose track of why. So if you're going to the gym 3 times a week, you feel accomplished in the short term. You're like, yeah, this is awesome. But then eventually you might burn out and be like, well, I've been so good for the last like 3 months, I can, skip this week or whatever. And if it's not rooted in that deeper why, like I really want to keep up with my kid, or I want to feel good about myself and in my body, then those smaller goals don't have the same pull as that bigger goal. So if you combine the two, that's where people are finding the most success.
Yeah, and that goal or that study called them, what was it, subordinate and superordinate goals. So the superordinate goals are the big ones that you're talking about, and the subordinate goals are breaking it down to the smaller point.
Right.
Smaller goals. And that is the essence of what I do. When I am at my best, I break them down to, I'll take my big goal, and then I break it down to monthly goals, and then I break it down to weekly goals, and then I break it down to daily. So what do I need to do every day? Daily action steps. So for me, one of them that I've been pretty darn good at for, 20 years is exercising every day in some form. I have to exercise every day. Other ones that I've not been so great at, and I'm working on this year again, is stretching every day. Because if I don't stretch, my body feels, especially when I start lifting again, which I've recently started in the last year to really get back into, my body, literally my muscles feel like they're going to tear all the damn time. So that one I have gotten back into. But yeah, that's how I feel it's most successful. And then I focus on the small goals. And the big goals, if you set it up right and you follow your plan, the big goals just happen. And what usually happens for me is my big goals are smaller than they should be, because I don't think I can accomplish what I can accomplish in a year or a month or whatever And then when I break it down, I start doing it, and my yearly goal, I'm 50% of the way there by the end of January if I set it in the beginning of January. I don't know if you've had that same experience as well.
I'm usually the one who like overshoots the goal. Like I have this big, hairy, audacious, whatever goal, and then I'm like, am I really supposed to accomplish that in a year? By the time I get to like the middle of the year, yeah, I fall short
nice.
sometimes.
You really gotta push in the second half.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have the opposite problem where I have to extend my goal, as in, if my goal was to run a mile, let's say in 8 minutes, I'll get to 8 minutes at the end of the first month, and then it's like, oh, I should probably make this goal harder. Or I should just make a goal to stay at 8 minutes and then focus on something else.
Yeah. I think goals are like figuring out your big goal and making that, like achievable that's the hard part, right? Is like, well, how much can I accomplish in a year? Like, what am I capable of? And I think that gets better as you practice setting goals and like figuring out, like working toward a goal for a year and being like, well, where did I end up? Like you had to reevaluate at the end of a month, whereas I had to reevaluate at the end of like 6 and be like, wait, do I need to make this goal a little bit easier?
Right. Yeah, I found it interesting that there's very, very few studies, actual journal studies on these goals. Because it's talked about so much in academia, in the business world, in personal development. Goals are just, everybody talks about them, and apparently nobody has decided to study them.
Yeah, there's no research on it. Like we struggled to find one good article about making a goal and how you stick to it.
Lots of articles, but no scientific studies to find out what is the actual best way. They're not none, but very, very few. So I found that surprising. One thing I did find was that in students, self-setting goals improves performance, and also personal best goals. So if, for instance, if my personal best bench press was 275 pounds and I made a goal to improve that, that's going to be a goal that's going to motivate more people on average, according to these studies. The self-setting goals totally makes sense, because if me setting a goal for you makes no sense.
Why do I care about your goal for me? You don't know my life.
Exactly. I mean, you should care a little bit.
Geez. I care.
but yeah, that totally makes sense. So make your own goals. Don't let the other people make the goals for you. Break them down into smaller goals. And like I said, I do daily action steps, and that's when I really nail my goals. I don't think I ever miss when I do this daily action steps. Yeah, if I'm dedicated to it, my goals come true more often than not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I kick myself for not just making more goals. Because that's the hard part for me, is just making the goal and actually writing it down and then breaking it down.
Yeah.
It does take some time. You have to do it.
Yeah, and I feel like you have to know yourself pretty well too. And that's a big part of, maybe why there isn't a ton of evidence to support what the best goal is because you have to really know how you work internally and like what motivates you and what drives you.
Yeah, and that gets back to your why that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, gaining a ridiculous amount of muscle and becoming a bodybuilder would be a really stupid goal, because that has no, like, there's no why for me.
Yeah.
It's like that just makes me big, bulky, and probably not be able to move as well as I do now for the things that I care about. But just getting in better shape is also not a great goal, because what the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
Is round a better shape than, So you need something a little more specific than that. What's getting in better shape meaning? Does that mean losing weight? Does that mean gaining muscle? Personally, I like to focus on things that aren't measurable as far as like the body dimensions. So I don't want to say, oh, I have 13-inch biceps and I want to get a 15-inch bicep.
Oh, totally. I agree.
Yeah, I like to focus on things that I know I can achieve based on the work that I'm going to put in. Like the science is pretty darn solid. We'll go into it later, but the science is pretty darn solid on if I lift weights and I go until failure, I'm going to get stronger over time. And so I can affect that outcome much more reasonably than I can just say, I've had people that will say, hey, I want to lose 40 pounds, and then they lose 20 pounds, but they look amazing because they got into lifting weights instead of just trying to lose weight. And they're happier, but they're 20 pounds heavier than their goal was. So technically they didn't make the goal, or they didn't meet the goal. They failed on their goal in a way, but they're happy. And hopefully most of them, after some, little bit of coaching sometimes, they realize that they like where they are, and that the scale doesn't tell the story.
I want to frame that and put that up on a wall, because yes, the scale doesn't tell the whole story. Thank you.
Yes. So, Lauren, goals, how do you do it and how do you get started?
It's a good question. So I was one of those people for a long time, especially through PT school, it seems super ironic. I could not motivate myself to work on my health and work on my fitness while I did PT school. And my whole, the purpose of being a PT is to help people be stronger and fitter and achieve their goals and their functional capabilities. And I couldn't do it. And I started and stopped a million times. So I've been there of this, I'm on the train, I'm off the train, on the train, off the train. And I couldn't figure out what worked. And so really, I really resonated with that one research study that we read that was talking about your superordinate and your subordinate goals, because that's what I did without necessarily knowing it. What it finally worked was 3 years ago. I just sat down because I was at my most miserable in my body. Just it wasn't even about weight. It wasn't about how I looked. It was just miserable in my body. And I was like, well, what do I want? What is it that I want? And I just wanted to feel better. I wanted to feel good being me. I wanted to be okay with this physical form, and not in the sense of how it looked, just in the sense of how it felt, how I carried myself, how I walked around. And that was my really deep why, is I wanted to, I guess, love myself in a deeper way than I really ever had. And so that to me meant taking care of my health and nutrition and really focusing on that. And I jumped all in, which I don't know is the best way to do it for everybody, but I literally I picked a day, and it wasn't January 1st. It was literally December 20th, 3 years ago, because it was the craziest week of Christmas week right into New Year's, whatever. And I was if I can change my diet, my nutrition, and change workout every single day this week during a Christmas week, if I can do that, I can do it every single day of the year. And that was a really insane goal. And I don't know if I necessarily recommend everybody to do pick the hardest obstacle and just hurdle yourself over it. But that's what worked for me and it was because I was so connected to my why of I just want to have this self-love. And I worked out every single day that week, and I haven't stopped doing it 3 years later.
I like that. I like that you just, went all in. That sounds like something I would do. You're going to run through the wall. And after you run through the wall, the rest of the run is easy.
The rest is easy. And then, yeah, and I've taken moments where during the beginning of the pandemic, I was not motivated to work out, and it was really tough. Gyms were shut down. I work out from home, so that part didn't affect me too much, but just the energy to spend on working out was not as easy. I had it to spend in other places where I didn't before. but it like that underlying why was still there. And so as soon as I like had the energy to get back to it, which was like maybe a week or two later, I got back to it. And it was like there was no on and off the train. It was just like this is who I am now. I'm on this journey of like loving myself, and this is what I do to do that. Makes sense.
I like how you also pointed out the irony of you not being able to do it in PT school. It made me think of just the irony of PT school in general. You study, you sit in a chair for 8 hours a day.
Oh my God.
You study
all day after
how
that.
bad sitting in a chair is for you.
Oh, it's so I mean, like the irony of the irony of PT school. I'm like, you take a person like me, and I'm just like a chronic over studier. I sat at a computer for like 13, 14, 15 hours a day. Like, that's all I did.
You went way harder into it than I did. I bounced off the chair all day beside you, and you were the only person in class that could take sitting beside me. Thanks, Lauren.
You were the only person who like motivated me to get up every once in a while. So thanks, Travis.
Oh, you're welcome. So other good things to do when you're making these goals, if you make a goal, for instance, if you're not a person that's always motivated to work out, which by the way, those people don't really exist.
No.
It takes a lot to make me go for a run. I just do it because I know that it's good for me, and my dog helps me because he drives me insane if he doesn't get his run in. So none of us really want to beat the crap out of ourselves every day. I just find that it makes me feel way better the rest of the day when I beat the crap out of myself in the morning.
I agree.
But if you're not a person that has that type of motivation and that type of dedication to this, especially you've tried and you failed and you've tried and you failed for working out, find somebody else to do it with you.
Yes.
Like having the accountability of another person, because what I found in physical therapy with my patients and with clients and in personal training is that a lot of people enjoy it after it's done. They enjoy our workouts together, but it's really hard to get them to do it on their own the days that I'm not there, right? But when I'm there, they're all over it. So the biggest key to doing most things is showing up.
Yes.
Right. So if you have somebody else that will show up and make you show up because you don't want to let them down, you got half the battle already. You're at the gym now. Then you just go and work out.
Yeah, totally. There's such a huge, and I think we'll probably do a whole separate episode on stuff like that too. But there's a huge value in having that accountability. I mean, that was, I guess, the part that I didn't talk about is like, that was a big game changer for me is I didn't even have, like, I've worked out at home for years, basically at this point. And so I never had somebody working out with me. It was never, that was not even the accountability that I had or even needed, I guess, at that point. But if you have somebody who's like doing it with you in the sense that, okay, we're both going to go to the gym or like do our workouts or whatever, X, Y, and Z day a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever. And then you check in with each other at the end of the day. Hey, did you do your workout? Or like, send me your sweaty selfie or whatever. That's what I would do is we would like take a picture of like how sweaty we were at the end and send it to each other and check in. And I was actually amazed how well that worked because I didn't think it would work that well. But like, oh man, in the beginning, of course, there's days in the beginning where you're like, I didn't want to work out, so I skipped the day. But then, oh my gosh, my friend texted me her sweaty selfie and I was like, ooh, I don't feel good about that. Like, I don't have anything to send back. And so then, I don't know, you reevaluate after that. That accountability is a game changer.
Yeah, most people let themselves down long before they let someone that they care about especially down.
Totally.
So yeah, I would strongly recommend you get somebody, and the accountability partner, the way you're doing it is a great idea too. Just have somebody that you'll send a picture with, like you're going through this journey together, even if they're across the country, you can do that. Or you hop on a Zoom call. You get a 45-minute free Zoom call, I think.
Yes.
So you hop on the Zoom call and you say, okay, let's do it. And you just put it on the floor and you do a floor workout, you know, push-ups and sit-ups and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think that's a great idea too. Nice that you came up with that one, and glad you had somebody to stick with it with you. I, on the other hand, would love to have a workout partner. Unfortunately, most people don't like the way that I work out. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but it's hard for me to find a good workout partner that'll go as intense as I like to go. And so I end up working out by myself, and I definitely do better when I work out with somebody else, but I do pretty darn well myself. I just have to, you know, be mean to myself in my head for an hour.
I feel like that competitiveness comes out when there's somebody else there, and that's like a big push for you, right? Yeah. I mean, I am the least competitive person that I know, like the least. I don't think I mean, maybe, but like I've never met anybody less competitive than me. But even for me, if somebody else is like watching me, I'm like, oh, I gotta like, let's go heavier. Come on, let's go. Like there's just that sense of, I don't know.
You are definitely the least competitive person I've ever met. Well, we have played board games before, and Lauren will intentionally try and help somebody else win. So if you are in a 2v2 board game or any competition with Lauren, you want to be with one of the other two people on your team if you want to win. She will help them win.
Yeah, I mean, it feels, I don't have to win. If I make somebody else win, I get the happiness of them winning, and they're happy because they won and I helped them, and then I get a hug. It's a win.
Well, it's a great attitude to have. You can't lose. It's a win-win.
Exactly.
Your teammate, if it's me, will not see it that way.
Oops.
Anyway, there was a Harvard, this wasn't really a study, but it was something from Harvard. So I took a look at it and I read it, and it was pretty good. So it said most of the same thing we said. They said dream big. I need to do a better job. They said break it into small goals, understand the barriers to your goals. So basically, foresee the obstacles that are going to come up. So you're going to wake up, and so say you make a goal to wake up in the morning and you're going to work out. That's what I do every day. You're going to wake up some days and you're not going to want to work out. I did that today. My body was tight. I didn't want to do it. I didn't go out drinking last night. It is January 1st here. For everybody listening, I don't know what day we're going to release this, but we were recording it on January 1st. I was in bed by 9:00 last night. My family made fun of me.
I beat you by 30 minutes. 9:30 for me.
Nice. I was really I was like, maybe I'll make it up till New Year's Eve on the East Coast, which is 10:00. And It totally didn't happen.
Nope.
So I went to bed, but I woke up this morning and my body was just tight from the week. This happens a lot on the weekends. I think it's like a mental thing. Like my body just knows I'm getting a break. My brain tells my body I'm getting a break. The same thing happens like when I go on vacation or something. A lot of times I'll get like a cold. So I think it's a mental thing, but a lot of times on the weekends I feel like, oh man, my hips are tight. I don't want to go. You just got to go. So you got to foresee those barriers and just keep sticking with your plan. And that was one of their next thing was commit. That's the commitment part. Celebrate the small stuff. So let's say your goal is, let's go back to the running. It's such an easy one to measure. So let's say your goal is to run an 8-minute mile and you start at a 10-minute and 30-second mile. And you get down to 10 minutes in 2 weeks. That's not an unheard of goal, especially if you're running a mile every day. You probably will get to 10 minutes or under. celebrate that. So celebrate the progress on your way. And then they said, learn from your mistakes and your slip ups. So just asking, what went wrong here? What can I change? So I'm really tired in the morning and I slept in. Well, how late did you stay up? How many beers did you drink? That type of thing. Just look at yourself and say, what can I do better, basically? And then be grateful. So being grateful is just, we'll talk about being grateful, but being grateful is just a good thing to do. Be grateful that your body allows you to do this and allows
totally.
allows you to improve every day and allows you to push yourself every day.
And just to touch on that before you're all wrapped up here, I wanted to just make a comment about learning from mistakes and embracing this, like, okay, so say you didn't get up and you didn't work out today, right? Like, I, in the beginning of this journey, would have looked at that and been like, I suck. I'm a failure. Like, that is, okay, negative self-talk, and we'll talk on that later again. But like, that's the mindset I was in when I was first starting to, tackle this goal. But instead of beating yourself up, and even like, instead of looking at it as a mistake or as a failure, it's a learning process, right? So you wouldn't look at your best friend and be like, Travis, you're a failure. Like, you didn't get up today and work out when you said I would never say that. And I don't think most people, like, no matter how mean you are, you wouldn't say that, right? Like, Travis, you would never say that to me. So treat yourself treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. That's kind of like a lot of what got me through that mindset in the beginning, was like, I would never, ever tell somebody that they're a failure for slipping up for one day. You know what I mean? And so look at it as like Travis was saying, like, what went wrong? Why did I not want to wake up? Can I go to bed earlier? Can I drink less the night before? Can I set like a different kind of alarm that I want to get up to? Can I put slippers by my bed? Ooh, that is key for me. When I'm waking up at 4 a.m, I put slippers by my bed. It gets me out of bed because my feet are cold. But like, looking at those barriers and not seeing them as failures, but seeing them as like, how do I solve this problem? Like, that's so interesting. Why didn't I get up this morning?
Yeah,
simple solutions.
And make amends to yourself. So if you're working out 3 days a week and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you skip Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, hit them both. Make amends to yourself, or do it in the evening, whatever. Just get it done. Don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, this was fun.
Thanks everybody for joining in for our very first episode.
Yes, and we'll see you next time with, something else that we're going to talk about.
It'll be a surprise to everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to listen to this episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the episode and are getting benefits from our content.
If your life is improving in part due to the information in this podcast, we would greatly appreciate you sharing the episode with your family and friends on social media and leaving us a review so we can continue to reach more people and improve the health and happiness of the community at large.
Thanks again, and we will see you next week for another episode of the Health and Happiness Podcast.